So hey everyone, and in this video we are going to learn about use effect hook. So in the last video we actually covered the use state hook, and it was taught properly, so you can watch that and you would learn everything about use state hook. Now we are going to learn about use effect hook. So it's another hook which is always again helping us to get real-time changes whatever we want. So let me just first create a directory here. So I'll just copy it, and again I'll just name it as something else, so I'll just name it as use effect ex. Okay, and inside this also I'm just going to rename use effect ex, and it's use effect ex. Now what I want is, for example, you can just erase everything for now, and you would just say that suppose we want to call something which loads just on page. Okay, that means only once. Okay, that means once you just load the page, then only one thing would be called. Okay, for example, I would just say const data, or just say okay data, and set data. I'll initially leave it as empty, and I would just say use effect, and I would just say it would be only called once the page loads. So for that you have to write it like this. Okay, you have to write it like this, and you can use import like this. Okay, so I just want to say once the page loads, just get my data from backend only once. Okay, so you'll be doing some processing, getting data from API from backend, and now I'll just say let some response would be there. So I'll just say suppose this would be the data which I would get from the response. Suppose I would just say that we have different users data. Okay, so we have different users data. For example, yeah, we got the suggestion here. So we have different user data, name, Harshal Jain, and age, and like that. So we would simply say we have name, and let's pick some name and some age, and similar to this we have other users also. So I'll be just getting an array, for example, or an object, anything you want. So you can store anything inside your use state. In the previous video we actually stored an object. Right? You can see we stored an object, but this time we are actually storing an array. So I'm just saying that this is my array which I would get as a response, and then I would just say that set data res. I'm just saying just when the page loads, only just when the page loads, then only it would call. So let me just print something here. So I'll just say use effect only when component is mounted. That means only when page is loaded. Okay, only for one time. Okay, so now if I just show you this how it exactly works, so I would be just importing it. I would just say use effect example, and it would be imported from the use effect ex. Yes, you can see now it's imported. Now if I just show you my page, you can see that right now it's like this. Right now it's like this. If I just inspect, and if I just show console, you can see use effect only once when component is mounted one time. That means once you refresh this, then only it would be called. You can see once you refresh this, then only it's called. Okay, then only it's called. You can see then only it's called. It's not called again and again. But suppose if I just say in use effect itself, I say instead of this, I just remove it. Okay, so it would be called infinite times. You can see that it's called infinite times. Okay, infinite times. You can, if I just reload, you can see it's called infinite times. So when you want to do something infinite times continuously, so it would be doing it continuously. Okay, so that's how it exactly works. But I don't want to do it infinite times, so I would be just passing here brackets. That means only one time. That means it would be like this. Suppose whatever is in the data, you know that, yeah, my data variable now contains res because of use state variable. So I'll just show my data directly. Okay, so I'll just say data. Actually, I would just need to write it like this, and data dot map, and you'd be getting an item, and it would be like normal JavaScript mapping. And here I just want to return something. So I'll just return the name and age of each item. So you would just see that this is the result. Okay, so that's how it exactly works. So you can see that I'm showing the data, and data contains suppose Harshal Jain 1 and Harshal Jain 2. Okay, That would be better. Okay, and let's say age is this. Okay, so you can see that I'm getting this data. Okay, so that's how exactly when you want to get data only one time, then you would be using use effect like this. Okay, like this. But when you want to get data more than one time, for example, infinite times, what you would see is you would, instead of this, you would be passing empty. That means it would give you data infinite times, infinite times. Okay, if you don't believe me, what you can actually do is you would just do one more thing. Instead of this, I would just say that just in this array, get just update the res. Okay, just update the res. So it would be updating things again and again and again and again infinite times. Okay, right now you won't see the changes because it is having some issues in the console side. You would get the issues also. But right now, if you want to get infinite updates, you would be using it like this. Then you, that means you want to get data from backend again and again and again and again. Then only you would be using it like this. Okay, but I only want to use it once when the page loads. Then I would be writing it like this. Okay. Now one more thing. For example, we have a value which keeps on updating in some cases. For example, we have const counter, and I would just make it as 0. And let's say I'll just say we have a function. So let's say we have a function, and I would just say increment. For example, very similar to this actually. You would just go back to previous day's code, and you can see we have the increment function. So I would just copy this, and I would just paste it here, and I would just say initial value of counter is 0 and this function is 0. So I'm just saying increment the value of counter. So here right now I'm just saying that this is the initial value and I just increment the value of counter. That means in some case a counter value is changing. Okay, so what I would do is I would just say we have a button here. For example, we have a button here, and you can see we are calling a function which changes the value of counter. And let's show the counter also somewhere. So I would just say user info, and let's say we are also showing the counter. So I'll just show my counter also here somewhere. Okay, that means right now I'm just showing that whenever I click on this, the value of counter is updating. Now on change of this counter, I want to call this. That means every time when I change the value of this counter, I want to call this. So for that case also we can actually use use effect. So right now we previously I told you that use effect would be called only once, or it would be called infinite times. Now in some case when I want to call this, if the value of counter changes, then what I can do is I can simply pass counter here. Okay, that means now my use effect is actually dependent on this counter. Okay, so now what would happen? You have to do one more thing. You have to initialize it before your use effect, then only it would work properly. Then it would work properly. So now you can see that if I click on this, it would change the value again and again. For example, if I just inspect and console, and I would just say that this time it would be called use state called. Okay. Okay, so now for example, if I first of all reload the page, you can see use effect is called, and if I click on this, you can see it's called again and again because the value of counter is changing. Okay, so in this case also you would be using use effect, right? So now let's give you a proper practical example. Where would you be using? For example, we have a free API, so I'll just go to JSON placeholder, and you can just go to json.placeholder, and you can go to this website. Actually, yeah, it's like this, and you can go below and you can just see that we have this. Okay, we have this. So if I click on run script, it would give me some response. Okay, it would give me some response. So right now we have some kind of responses here which you can get. For example, I want to get 500 photos, so you can see that it's giving some photos. Okay, it's giving some photos, and if I just show you a photo here, you can see it's giving this photo. What I can do is I can just call this API. How can I call this API? So you can see they have told us the method. So this is the only method which we always use. Instead of this, we also use axios in React.js, but let's go with this method. I hope everyone has worked on this when they were learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, because in those cases also you use this method, and I have taught this before, so you can watch my basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Now what I'll do is whenever I call this, whenever I call this, it would give me some response, right? It would give me some response. So which API am I talking about? I'm talking about this API. Okay, so this API is gonna give me a response. So first of all, let's see what it actually gives. So it gives an array, right? It actually gives an array, right? If you don't trust me, what you can do is you are just printing here, right? You're first of all converting your normal data when you get from this API to a JSON format, then you're just printing it. So let's first of all see that what kind of data do we get here. So you can see that we are getting a data. Okay, we are getting a data, and you know that this is data which is very large. So obviously, first of all, your page would be loaded. Then after a few seconds, suppose your internet is slow, so after a few seconds your data would be loaded. So obviously, once this response is there, then only you would be showing a value. So once this response is there, then you would be updating the value of this. Okay, that's what we want. Okay, so we would just say that inside this itself, I'm just going to say I got that response, right? So I just want to set that array into my, okay, let me just write it as res so that it would be better, or data, that it would be better. Okay, data res, that would be better. Okay, so now you would understand very easily. Whatever is the response, final response, I'm just setting it into my array. Now you just want to show this. Okay, so what exactly you want to show? So you can come back here, and your each object is having what fields. So you can see each object is actually having, if I just reload, you can see that I'm getting this. So my each object is like this. So I'll just copy this, and I'll just set it here. Instead of this, I want to show something else. Okay, I want to show something like this. Okay, an object like this. What I'll do is, okay, actually is just a counter. Okay, and now this time I want to show album ID. First of all, I just want to show title. So I would just simply say we have a item.title, then we want to show an image. Okay, for example, we want to show image. Okay, so I'll just say we have img tag, and then we would just say src, and here you just want to show the thumbnail URL. Okay, that's what these two things which we want to show. So what we'll do is, now if I come back here, and you can see that you are able to get the data once the page loads. Okay, so if I suppose reload the page, it would reload the data, it would reload the data like this. Okay, and suppose it would give data of 5,000 elements like this. So you can see, yeah, you are able to get the complete data, and it's continuously loading, it's continuously loading. Okay, so that's the benefit of using use effect and different kind of hooks. Now I hope now you know the purpose of use effect hook. First of all, you would be calling whatever API you want. So we had three cases for use effect. First case was when you just want to call it once. That's the most ideal case, mostly you would be using this. Second case would be when you want to call things infinite times. This is very less recommended, and it would call things infinite times, so it would put a lot of burden of your website. But since if you want to call something infinite, then you would be calling it like this, but it would be obviously giving your website a lot burden, so it's not, definitely not recommended if you have thousands of lines, and obviously very less recommended. But infinite times, in those cases you have to call it like this. Now one more method was when the variable counter changes, that is counter variables value changes, then this is the third case. Okay, whenever I just press the counter, whenever I press this button, the value of counter changes, and once the counter changes, I'm calling this use effect. Okay, that's how it exactly works. Okay guys, so I hope you understood the purpose of use effect hook. Mostly you would be using it for calling data from the backend, that is using an API and setting it to some variable, whatever you want. Okay, so I hope you understood the purpose of this, and now in the next video we'll be learning more about different hooks. That's it for today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, say a good day. Bye bye.